Hello, everyone. On behalf of the Mindalia TV team, welcome. Today, we are being joined once again by Sunny Chase in this space that is named Pioneers of Possibility. Sunny is not only the host of this show, but she's also the host of ABC Solution 80 Sundays. She is the chief strategist for Whole Lifetimes magazine, the longest running conscious life magazine in America. Sunny is a producer and moderator and a mythbuster. But before starting with her and our very special guest today, we want to remind you that Mindalia is an international non-profit organization and that you can collaborate with us by liking this video, leaving us a positive comment, subscribing to our channel, or sharing this information with someone that you may think that could like the content that we're going to be sharing here today. Having said that, we now have the great honor of saying, Sunny, welcome to Mindalia. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for welcoming me, and let us welcome the new year and the new decade. And I'm so excited. This is our first show back. We've had a little bit of our vacation time to be celebrating the days of light, the nights of light, and going through the holy holidays. And what a time we've all had. And we're just a few days ago, we ended 12th night, so we're now into the new year officially. So welcome everyone to the new year.
Welcome 2020, and we're being faced with a lot of very interesting things. And as we were talking earlier, it's kind of hard to keep ourselves optimistic, right?
Yes.
How do you, Sunny, you're like a musical sun. How do you keep yourself optimistic in this time of the year or in this time of the life?
Well, it's a great question. Thank you for that. And I don't always succeed with that. I think what happens with me, because I'm ever the environmentalist, and I what I see that's uplifting for me is I've been on the, and as my son said to a group of friends when we had dinner over the weekend, he said, my mom's been doing the environmental thing way before it was cool. um, which is true. And I think that's what gives me heart is that now I hear the conversation all the time about different places stopping using single-use plastic in Berkeley and Malibu and in different places. I'm hearing people, of course, Greta Thunberg and Cat Martinez and Earth Guardians, all these kids coming forward, kids that are under 18, just angry and frustrated and scared and saying, guys, you're not taking care of us. We're going to have to just take care of ourselves or get you to take care of us. And so I think that's what, at this point, gives me heart, Myrna, that all of the things that we know are the best way for us all to be living together with our animal friends and our tree friends and everyone, that people are shifting that radio dial a little bit to know the importance of it. And so that's one of the ways that I just kind of say, okay, yay, hail, hail, the gang is all coming here.
It is very important. It's important also, yeah, to surround ourselves with people that we know that are going to be uplifting. And although we focus a lot on bringing solutions, we just don't put our minds in whatever is wrong. We actually had earlier today in our Spanish channel, our mothership, as I like to call it, this event of 1 full hour of positive comments, of positive intention comments. Our founder, he hosted this event in which for 1 hour, hundreds of people just communicated with us through voice messages or through the chat, the active chat in the live show, and they were giving us just positive comments. And we do know that's not like a factual or factic. I don't even know what's the word in English, but it's not help as a fact in the material world. But according to our principles and our ideas, definitely that's something that if we keep that momentum, it's going to, at a certain point, generate the consciousness that we want in order to channel our reality
Yes.
to whatever we want to channel that through. And I kind of feel that the guest you're about to bring in no time may be agreeing with us right?
Yes. You know, the thing that I want to just add to that with all of the positive comments and everything that can happen is that I always believe and have for a long time that there are different ways of let's say, of treating any situation. So let's say it's the health situation that we have in the world with Medicare, Medi-Cal, and just different, like the conversation with the politics, call it the health care. There are many different ways, or the political situation, or the environment, or any of the issues that we feel. I do believe that it is for us to do what we do. So some of us may be activists and march in the streets. Some of us may write books. Some of us may sing songs or write songs. Some of us may make movies. Some of us may do radio shows like this and podcasts and send them out into the world. They're storytellers. They're people who change the laws. They're people who do the research to find out what's better to bring something. Like if we have a problem, let's say, that kids with asthma can't breathe the air very well. Well, it's cleaning up the air and it's figuring out what to do for those kids with asthma. It's many different ways, facets of the diamond, aspects of the elephant, that we're all on. And so I just always want to remind us that there are different ways that we can be activists and not necessarily from a place of anger or frustration or fear or hate or just bucking against the system. But it takes us all, and I think not any one of them is okay on their own either. Like lettuce is great, but we could die if we only eat lettuce. So that's what I want to. That's sort of my chanting mantra all the time, guys. Do what's yours to do, and go ahead and do it. Let's do it already in 2020. Let us do it.
I love that you focus on that and that you mentioned that it's where is it coming from, because that was the main, like the initial message in which our founder he started the hour of positive comments was like, we are not blaming anyone, we are not putting our finger towards this is your fault or this is your fault. This is not a space for talking about who is hurting us or how we're hurting each other, but
Mhm.
just focus on the good.
Yes, yes. And I think that to do that as much as we can is also good. As I say, when I have a bit of an exhale, when I see how many people are coming, I mean, I have my moments of thinking, is it too late? Come on, guys, could we have had these conversations 10 years ago or 12 years ago when I started my first peace conference? I mean, perhaps we would have been better off, but the woulda, coulda, shoulda, we all know isn't really helpful. So it's to know that what we do now, this is what we'll look back on. What we start in January 2020, this is what we'll look back on 2022, 25, whatever, and say, okay, we got active in 2020. Thank the God above and below and all around us that we did it, that maybe it was a bit later than perhaps would have been okay, but it worked out. We did it just in time. So that's my prayer for our planet, for our Mother Earth. And speaking of activating, I do want to go ahead and bring on Julie Renee Doering, and she's a dear friend of mine. Actually, I don't know if Mindalia TV knows that, but we've known each other for many years, and it's just I'm so proud of her, which is probably make her laugh because she's a big deal. So she doesn't probably need that from me, but I am. She's written, gosh, over 12 books I had on so many different subjects that really encompass sort of anything and everything we'd ever wonder about. And she does work with the brain that is astronomical. It's sort of in this world of Mindalia TV. So many people have been on. We had Lynn McTaggart on last, couple of weeks ago. We've had such incredible people on this show and on Mindalia TV and Television. You've had everyone, it seems. And now you have Julia Renee Doering. You can add that to your list of mega peeps. So I want to just go ahead and bring her on, and then we'll drop in all her cool stuff as we chat. All her cool stuff. Good morning, Julia Renee.
Good morning, Sunny. Hi. It's great to be here.
Mm. So I'd love for you to just, if you want to, just to kind of warm up, add your thoughts to what we were chatting about, Myrna and me.
Oh, yeah. I certainly have a lot to say about that. I think you're right on the right track. We lose all our power when we assign blame to another. And so where we find the great momentum is when we take full responsibility, even if it wasn't something we created. We're part of the oneness of all, and that we're lifting the set points and how people are interacting together. And then also, I think that things don't always happen in the timing that we want, and we feel discouraged, like I'm not enough or it's not enough. But that's another way of assigning blame and making yourself small. And when you can say, I am enough, and it is enough, and we are moving, and look at all of the things that you can praise and be grateful for, all of the things that have changed already, and even tiny little changes, just holding on to everything that's shifting and changing, and praising that, and praising God, and praising the people, and really validating any tiny shifts, because that opens the door for more shifting.
Beautiful, beautiful. I love for you to really. To be honest with you, I was so excited that your publicist created this time for us to be together because I really wanted you to be the first show of 2020. I wanted to usher in. I wanted to usher in new possibility and new everything with you. And so I'm sure many people don't know your story, and we want to get to all the good stuff, but guys, just to let you know, Julie Renee went through some of the most challenging health aspects a person can go through and live through, and not just one or two times, but many times. And so we see her now. She looks so beautiful. She looks so healthy. Her hair is shiny. Her eyes are sparkly. And it wasn't always that way. So bless you for staying with us and bringing all of these amazing books and light and information to us. And you were really meant, or you are really meant to be here because you could have very easily not been here at this time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'd love for you to just share, kind of a 2020 message if you want. And your voice is so beautiful and soft. We may ask you to speak a little louder so all the peeps can hear you.
All right. Um, 2020 message, meaning what would you like to, which direction would you like to go?
I would say, I would say right now, because we have a lot of scary things happening between the environment, politics, and divisiveness pretty globally. So I'd say perhaps kind of chat to that to start.
Yeah. Well, um, I may not be the favorite person for some of you, because I've developed a philosophy of being aware not through newsreels or what's happening, but rather continuing to tune into the universe and feeling into what's shifting. And we had a very challenging 2019. I think everybody did. We in my family had a really challenging, a lot of energies. The academy, we developed a lot of um, clearing protocols for dark energies. There was a lot of movement. I think really that it's on its way out, but it was kind of a last hurrah of a lot of the dark energies leaving. There are certainly still things to be working on to create more freedom for humankind. But I look into 2020 and I see so much light. I'm actually very excited about 2020. And it was interesting because it was just a few days into the calendar year when I just felt like there was just a huge flood of light, like something just lifted. And
Mm.
and some of the stuff I've been sharing with my community about when you feel like you're not enough, or when you're grieving that you can't create a shift, reevaluate that, realign yourself with the divine. You are enough. You are perfectly where you are meant to be. Wherever you are in this moment in time is exactly where you're supposed to be, no matter how things may seem to appear. And I understand that some of how we've come out of the age of the Piscean age, rather, the patriarchal age, and we're moving into the Aquarian age. And some of that feeling of grief, of over responsibility, and kind of a guilt almost of not being able to change things as quickly as we'd like to, is being left behind. Because when you align with I am part of the divine, and that I am an expression of God on the planet, and you align with that perfection, then knowing that there will be things that shift in divine right order, and that we aren't the final say in all the shifting. We are the gateway, the action, the momentum for shift. But ultimately, things will shift in the perfect timing. And sometimes humanity, being the larger group of humanity, is lower energy. They're going to respond to crisis. And that's when things are going to shift. And so we have to take that into account, that the majority of people on the planet still are in a lower energy field. Yet, when 20 or 50, it's like when two or more of you are gathered in my name, there I shall be also. When we gather, when we align, when we recreate, when we reset our energy to a higher frequency, and we see the vision, we hold the vision, we know that this is true for the earth. We know that this is true for our hearts and our minds. We know that this is true for our interaction with humanity. We hold that space. It may be 5 years or 50 years or 5 weeks or 5 days or 5 minutes, but we hold the vision as true, and we live into that trueness, that of being a master, creating on the planet. And I think that we are just stewards of the earth, as you know, like the idea of we can't take anything with us when we go. So virtually, we're the caretakers of everything. And so the more that we love and are grateful and bring in those higher frequencies, the more rapid things shift and change.
Thank you so much for that. As you were speaking, I was thinking about a couple of human aspects we have, which are impatience and the aspect of, or the practice of holding the vision. We hear that you use those words, and I want to actually speak to that a little bit. I was thinking of, as you know, I was in the musical Hair many million of years ago. And there's the line in it, and this song was written in 1966 and performed in 1967, 68. But the words are, it's the song Age of Aquarius, but the words are, when the moon is in the seventh house and Jupiter aligns with Mars, then peace will guide the planet and love will fill the stars. It always makes me cry. And this is the dawning of the age of Aquarius. So that was it. When the guys Jerry and Jimmy Ragney wrote that song. You know, the show came out in '67, but of course all this was being processed before. So it was like 65, 66. They were writing these things, and so I think, you know, that was about 50 years ago. That was the dawning. And so I'm wondering if you can help us out with our patience, because we have an idea. We want, many of us among us want a change, or we want a betterment, or we want more money, or we want more love, we want more health, we want to get over that disease, whatever. And we hold the vision for a minute, an hour, a day, something like that. And I'm so curious what you have to say now that we're going into a new decade. We maybe are going into the next how do I say, chapter of the age of Aquarius, or if we're arriving into the age of Aquarius, you know, that we've held this vision for 50 years. You know, what can you say to us about kind of the patience, holding on to something, not giving up, not feeling futile, not feeling like, oh, shoot, it didn't work for me. It works for everybody else, but it doesn't work for me. That praying and meditating and all that stuff.
Yeah. I can think of a few things to speak to that. So when we experience impatience, we are not aligned with our own truth, because impatience would indicate that what's happening around us is not supposed to be happening around us, that there's something wrong. So when we're impatient, we think that something is wrong rather than all is in divine right order. And it's a version of blame, but not. It's kind of like blame, though. And when you have impatience, you believe that something is not aligned with how it should be, you slow it down a lot. You really do. I understand that that drives people to do things and take actions. I get that. And that's what has been, that came out of the patriarchal era, that we had to fight to make a change, or we had to get this internal turmoil to make a change. So that's kind of our organic nature. That's our human animal nature, is to fight and to, ugh. But the alignment of knowing that all is in divine order. And I think I told you about this years ago. I was looking for a White House on the mountain. I'd had this vision, and it was literally 15 years later, I had the vision of the White House on the mountain. I kept looking in Marin, and I've never found it. And I had this, somebody told me, oh, you're not going to have that home for another 3 or 4 years. And I thought, no, I can't wait another minute. And I felt into my heart, I was looking in the wrong place. The first house I looked at in Carmel Valley, Monterey Peninsula, I said, the only place I felt was Carmel Valley. And I came here. This house had been a big white house on the top of a mountain, serene and beautiful, and actually more beautiful than what I'd imagined. It has 3 fireplaces and marble floors, and it's spectacular views, 365 views. It was a house I had seen for 15 years and was not sure why it wasn't coming together, but in the perfect time, it came together. And it came together in the perfect way. At that point, I was beginning to be known. So I was doing summit interviews, and I had this explosion, a summit interview that sold 3,000 products, and made it possible for me to afford something that I likely couldn't have afforded. And, kind of instantly, had also been wanting to fulfill a desire to have children. So 6 months after moving in here, I filed for adoption, and 12 months after that, my daughter arrived. And I think, if I look at God's divine right order, I had children early in my life and wasn't able to raise them. I lost custody of them when I had cancer, and I died twice after that. So probably rightly so that I lost them, but I longed for children. I longed for the fulfillment of motherhood. And here at 59 years old, I was handed a beautiful baby girl in my dream home. This is absolutely, I can't imagine a nicer home for myself than this home. And I
Aww.
and I think about that, and I think while I was waiting, it is difficult when you're in the waiting period. But if I look back now, I couldn't have created what I'm creating now had I found this house earlier. I don't know how it would have come together. I don't know how anything would have come together. And I see a divine right order. I see that not everything that we mock up and intend for is meant to come to us immediately. And there are a few things where I think they don't come together because it's not for our highest good. And I was dealing with this a lot in the last few weeks. I lived during the time of Christ, and I was at the foot of the cross when he died. And I prayed so hard that that God take this away, that we not go through this horrific thing. And I think that even in this lifetime, I've still had like a broken heart about I wasn't enough. I didn't pray hard enough. Somehow I didn't do something that could change that reality so that Jesus could continue to teach and love us and mentor us. And I've just become very, very clear. In my mind, I understood, but it's that heart space that feels like I just couldn't be enough. I feel like I'm a guardian of the planet. I'm a super woman on so many levels. And there have been a few things in my life that I've prayed for and intended for that haven't shifted. And there's been a higher purpose for that.
By the way, I just want our audience to know, if you're watching this, it's so wild because Julie Renee's light has just completely changed. And that wasn't anything that we did on the camera or anything. When we first started the show, Myrna, our producer, set our colors up and everything like that. And then just as you were chatting, Julie Renee, I saw you turn from like flesh color, and now you're completely white. So guys, that's not anything we did. It's something she did in her magic land. So thank you for sharing about that, because I think that's something that really happens. I remember one time years ago, I did one of my first sort of manifesting things that I heard about, or practice that I did. Oh my gosh, maybe 35 years ago, before it was cool, before The Secret and all that. I went to a dude ranch with a group of people. It was called Summit. It was like S, but it was the kind of more elegant version. And the trainer asked us to write a letter to ourselves and then put it away. And so I wrote this letter, and to also ask for a certain amount of money. That was part of the letter. And I put an amount of money on it that I really honestly kind of didn't think I could really get. It was a lot of money for me at the time. It was out of my, it was all the way up to my imagination. And then over another dollar would have been, I'll never get that, impossibility. Well, I wrote this letter to myself, put it in my sock drawer, and completely forgot about it. So back to the, I'm still in the conversation of holding the vision and impatience. So I forgot all about it. Well, about 8 years ago, one of my favorite uncles passed away and left me that exact amount. I mean, to the penny. And so it was just so wild, because I think that's part of it too, is the letting go, right? Is sort of the releasing. And that's the holding the vision. So if we speak of this in a bigger way, if we hold the vision for all of the, I don't want to speak negatively like the fires in Australia, but all of the elements, the fire, water, air, uh, uh, the gases, the trees, everything are living in harmony, and there is all peace with all of the elements that I think it would be so great if we could just keep holding that vision, even when we see things like this, the Australian fires and stuff like that.
Yes.
And of course, Sonoma and everything.
I think one of the things that helps us keep the energy high and keep the vision is continuing to clear. And clearing can happen from singing or chanting or praying or meditating, but keeping yourself right. You have to keep yourself emotionally full and feeling well to keep that vision. I think that when you start paying too much attention to lower energies, you can really have a hard time with holding a vision that something is going to work for you.
Yes, absolutely. By the way, I do want to send a shout out, because the situation that is happening in Australia is very, very shocking. It hasn't happened there before, like ever. And so Lynn McTaggart, who we had on the show a couple of weeks ago, who is the master of intention in that specific way, where she gathers circles of eights and all of that, has in her group has brought together people to intend for the peace of Australia. And my cousin Justine is a firefighter, and I just found out that she's joining a group of 20 American, actually from Los Angeles, firefighters that are on a plane right now and they're landing in Australia right now to be fighting the fire, and they'll be there a month. So much safety and prayer to my cousin Justine, and God love you, girl. She kicks butt. She's one of the captains. She's something else. So again, back to my original point about we can pray about it, and then there are those, we can pray and pray, but we also need the water to fall, and we need, on the fire, and we need all of the active, we need every organ of our consciousness of our humanness to act with these things. Don't you think, Julie Renee?
I do. I was just thinking about something very tiny compared to that, but I had brought some roses home. I'm going to show them to you. And I have a special needs daughter, so I don't always get things in the water or put away in the refrigerator when they're supposed to be, but these didn't get water for a few hours. And the pink ones had dropped over. They were all just like the heads were dropped over. And I spoke to them and I said, it's all right. You can stand back up. And I've cut you fresh a bottom, but they had been for over a day. They'd been their heads down. And I said, no, it's okay. Go ahead and stand back up. And they have been standing up for like 6 days now. But they had like, so I honestly, I just feel like we have, and I also told them the other day, because these are just, grocery store roses, it's all right if you open up. I would really love to see, because they normally don't. The grocery store roses don't like fully open, and like my garden roses do. And the white ones especially are opening really beautifully. And I think about the kind of power that we have, that we are powerful beyond measure. We don't even know. I mean, sometimes it's speaking into existence. I learned about this when I was quite young. I had bought a house when I was 33 in Minnetonka, Minnesota. And I was planting trees. I had a third of an acre. And I looked at one tree. It was just experimenting. I looked at one little tree and it was like 18 inches or something. And I said, you're going to die. And I don't know why I did that. It was an experiment. And I looked at another one and said, you're going to thrive. And what was so shocking to me, and I've never done it since, is because it shocked me, is the next day, the little tree looked like someone had poured acid on it. It had turned orange and it was dead. And I was like, oh my gosh. So understand that what we say and what we think has a direct effect on our environment. And so by using positive thoughts and positive words, I think we are way more powerful than we think we are. And you can do these experiments yourself. I don't want you to do that anymore, though. I didn't know that was going to happen. But what I have done is, like, I could speak truth into a rose bush that's struggling. Formerly, when you and I knew each other, I was engaged for a short time to a doctor, and I said, you can speak love into that plant. And the rose bush that was really struggling, the next day had 400 new leaves, bright green with a lot of red in, like sugar, like sweetness, like sugar had been poured all over. And from a scraggly to an overnight, just a huge explosion of life. And understand that if we used our mind that way, and if there were thousands of people using our mind that way, our planet would shift really rapidly. But I think that we are unaware of that miraculous system that we have.
Well, I think that luckily we're, again, like I'm saying, that it used to not be so cool to be environmental. I think luckily, and with beautiful networks like Mindalia TV and in the Spanish and Portuguese, that more and more people are coming to more and more realization of our power, of our mind and heart and thoughts and feelings, and even more importantly, I feel. And it was really cool, Julie Renee. We were talking on a show a couple weeks ago, and I really got the realization in my own heart that I use, and many of us use the term, I think this, or I was thinking about that, or we use the word think a lot. And I said how fun it would be to just shift that word to feel. I was feeling this way. I was feeling about that. Because that is really the truth. Because even if we think it, we're also underlying feeling it. So I would love for you to really share with us, because some people in our audience may not really know what you do. And I know that we have a few more minutes, but I just wanted to give you guys an idea. I had to write these down because it's just too much information. Just a few of the titles of the books to give you an idea of what Julie Renee is up to in her beautiful castle on the hill there. She has one book that's called 100% of You and Your Divine Human Blueprint, How to Use Quantum Energy. Another one is Quantum Healing Secrets for More Energy, Vitality, and Momentum Every Day of Your Life. Another one is Balance Your Life Now, Ignite Your Life with Happiness, Fulfillment, Love, and Full Self-Expression. Another one, these are really interesting to me also. It feels like in a different kind of area, maybe or maybe not. Illumination, the new rosary for the awakening heart. And then Illumination, the new rosary for the awakening heart prayer book. And then Awakening the Healthy Human, Quantum Book of Songs, Quantum Activations, Chart Book, Origins of Humanity in Prose and Imagining. So if you guys hear those titles, I hope that just activates you to say, what is happening here? I want to check this out. So if you want to go in a little deep, just a tidbit for our audience so they can just get more drawn to check out what you're doing and all that stuff.
Yeah, I just happened to, because I was in a business meeting this morning, we were talking about this book. This is Your Divine Human Blueprint. And it's about 600 pages. I wrote it a few years back. It's fabulous if you want a deep dive, and if you want a simple, like a book that feels like a conversation in the living room. Let's see, 100% You formula is really so easy. It's like we're just having a chat. I think about the Balance Your Life Now book, the book about living in balance. And we're talking about, we didn't really cover this in this program, but the new ascension. And ascension now is full self-expression in the human experience. So not meditating yourself out of your body and ascending, but fully experiencing the human realm. So really becoming all of who you're meant to be. This is a really simple 12-week program to help you understand the dynamics of your life and how to bring it into more expression. And my favorite book that just got published, and we do have one coming out next week called Sound of Truth, which is the Vedic mantras. But my favorite book is Origins of Humanity. Yeah, the Vedic mantra book will be out next week, Sound of Truth. It just got loaded into Amazon yesterday. So it's funny, Jack Canfield's a friend of mine, and I said, well, I've written 15 books, and this was about 5 years ago, and he said, well, you owe it to humanity to publish everything you write. so he's been kind of a little whip on my backside to just keep publishing. The Origins of Humanity is very, it will, if you are in a sad or low state, it is going to raise your frequency and your joy level. And it's such an opening because it really speaks to, it's very poetic, very prophetic. It lifts you. And it's, if you can probably read the whole book in 20 or 30 minutes because it's poetry. But it kind of goes through the journey of being from a we to individuated to in a body encompassed by a mass. And it's a gorgeous book. I love it.
Oh, well, one of the things I think that sets you apart, I think everyone is set apart from everyone, and then we also have a lot of threads that are the same. And is your work with the brain? So that is something that I think is super special. So if you want to chat to that a little bit,
sure.
We have a pretty sophisticated audience, so you can go for it.
I've been doing a process called Cellular Neo Genesis for about 10 years. And I wondered 3 years ago if I could take a group through, because I can do it one-to-one with people, and I can pull people out of dementia. I can pull people that have had severe strokes back to normal life. And it's using the Cellular Neo Genesis process. So first we clear everything. We clear over 1,000 things. And then from there, we go into the regeneration process. We're matching the master and stem cells in the brain to the divine human blueprint, their perfected state. And when I look at most master and stem cells in brains, I read 5,000 brains one year. What I discovered is they were functioning between about 7% and 27%. None of them were even close to 100%. And so what we're doing is we're matching them up to their 100% form and function in the divine human blueprint. So essentially, it's almost like you're overlaying the blueprint information onto the poor functioning cell until it becomes the fully functioning master and stem cells. And then from there, We do a mirroring process. And, when somebody smiles at you, oh, she likes me. That feels good. And you get this kind of rush over you, like, oh, that feels good. That's part of what's happening. Mirroring is using the light of the cell to send information to the surrounding cells. So we get a big boost in the surrounding cells. And finally, the third piece of that is using the mitochondria. I see things in silly visions, like cartoon visions. So the mitochondria I see looking like a caterpillar, and I tickle the caterpillar's tummy and outbursts a cascade of new cell growth. But the mitochondria is actually looks like a little worm, and it's right on the inside of the cell membrane. And by pressing on a program in the mitochondria, which is um, metaphoric, not you're not literally using a finger to press on it. We start a cascade of new cell growth, and that will go on for about 6 months. And
Ooh.
we've seen improvements in. So I took 200 people through that process last year, and we had a 25% increase in memory, a 36% increase in vibrancy, 18% improvement in brain being relaxed versus headaches, 33% improvement in sleep, and a 15% improvement in speech. And that was for people who either had trouble finding words or had a speech impediment. And you think about that was a group going through a process one time, and that there's no limit to how many times you can go through that process. You would wait 6 months before you do that process again. But if you could see improving your brain over time. I'm 62. I know most people think I look a lot younger than my age. And part of the reason for that is the cellular neogenesis process. We're working with your own stem cells. We're not using any foreign energy. We're rearranging how your particles are vibrating in your own field personally so that they vibrate in a better circumstance for you.
Beautiful. So, guys, I really invite you to, it's just so, so deep. So, it's difficult to really give it all to you in one show in 15 minutes, but I want to do little things that just get you tantalized to go deeper. Another thing that I found interesting when I was going through just the list of the titles, even though I have read some of your books too, and I love the book that you just showed to the people, and I lent that to someone, or I would be showing it myself. That book. These ones about the illumination, the new rosary for the awakening heart, and the, I guess, companion book, the prayer book. So for our audience, what is that about?
I have a very beautiful connection with Mother Mary, but I found that the old rosary was kind of, I don't know, not as uplifting as it could be. So I went through the structure of the rosary, and it is an absolutely, I'd be happy to send you the book. It's an absolutely
Thank
gorgeous
you.
version of the rosary. We just did that in a group, a community called the Day Before Christmas. And we did it. It's if you do the whole process, it's about 3 hours, and you feel the presence of Mary and Jesus and all the angels. You feel the presence of God with you. Life changes. I mean, I heard Mary speaking to me during the prayer. It was so, so beautiful. So it's repetitive prayer. And in every religion, there is a mantra, a prayer, a something. And what repetitive prayer does is two things: it connects you with the divine, and it clears negative energy from your field, especially from your aura, but just altogether clears negative energy from you. So the main book has all the references to where things came from in scripture, and explores the languaging, why the languaging was done, how to understand what happened 2,000 years ago with the heart and mind of today. How could we make that make sense to us today?
Mm.
It's very beautiful. What people often do, I hear a lot of my students say they'll take just one of the 15 decades and they'll use that as a point of prayer and a little connection in for their sacred time during their day.
Oh, how beautiful is that? And as you, I don't know if you can hear in the background, I live in LA where there are the sirens that go off. And so it's forever the reminder that we have the balance of the world of of the outer drama, especially going on in LA, and being able to find a way, like Berna was saying in the beginning, how do I find the peace? And honestly, I do a lot of the time, and I don't sometimes. And as you were speaking about that, I was thinking about many people who, and feeling about, I'll change my word again. I was feeling about how people have a challenge or whatever with meditation, sort of like a work or a job or a thing that we should do, and people have a challenge with it. And I was thinking that in the year of 2020, you were speaking about bringing all of this love to the roses and the open, that we can bring that love to the earth and calm it down. It also shifts our honoring. So if we're loving the earth, if we're loving the roses, then when we go out with our kids to the beach, we're not going to drop trash. Like it doesn't just change that moment, it changes our actions too. So I think that's an important aspect that I'd love you to speak to, as far as, yes, we do the prayer, yes, we do the mantras, the chants, and all that. And it does shift our actions, and also being a model of that. I do believe that it shifts the actions of people around us, perhaps subtly. Like, I don't use ever plastic on my shows ever. I always use ceramic, and I don't always talk about it. But you wouldn't see me drinking out of a plastic bottle, because I don't believe in doing that. But I don't always speak of it, I just do it. So what do you think of how that kind of ripples out?
Yeah, I actually think it's even much bigger than just people learning from looking at you. I think that you're resetting an energetic set point of, this is unacceptable. I've raised my frequency to this behavior. And so around you, the set point of, this is the behavior that works well. People might even feel a little bit uncomfortable, like, oh, I shouldn't be holding a plastic bottle. Even though you're not saying anything to them, they might pick up on, that's right. I've heard that these aren't very good for us. I wonder if this one's made out of corn. Like they might start feeling that way because your field is broadcasting something different. But also,
Ooh.
the place where that shifts really the best is when you're really delighted and not struggling. When we think thoughts that somebody's doing something wrong, then they're going to feel that, just like the roses are going to feel it. Somebody's doing something wrong, you're gonna pick up on that. You're gonna feel uncomfortable. That somebody's got an opinion that I'm doing something wrong. When you feel like, oh, there's this energy, there's this wave of love, there's this wave of awareness that's coming through, and I can make a shift now. I'm ready for that. Where it's welcoming and accepting, where it isn't, I was doing something wrong, I can just shift up. I think that's what we've been really working on too, is how do you shift without having it be making one thing wrong to shift into something else? How do you just gradually keep stepping up? And that's why I say slow and steady, slow and steady, slow and steady. If we can just be slow and steady and make our
Ooh,
changes. Yeah.
I like that, slow and steady. And that also ties in with holding the vision, slow and steady, slow and steady.
Exactly.
And I know we're coming at a certain point here to the end of the show. And one last idea that I wanted to ask you to chat to is the giving permission. You were saying about, oh, I hold this, and so then it does all the things that you just said. And I think that's so perfect, because um, I think that's part of what does give us, how do I say, to allow us to know that there's a different way. Like the status quo is everyone's drinking out of a plastic bottle. Oh, that's just the way we do it. Well, it isn't just the way we do it. Or maybe it was the way we did do it, but we don't have to go to the soccer field with our little kids and give them those juice boxes with, first of all, junk in them and then junk around them. Yes, it isn't just the status quo. We can give people permission to play a different way. So I would love for you, as kind of a little bit of a closing, to chat to the people about what we can do in 2020 as our way beyond just resolutions, but the questions. Wise people have always told me that it's really in the questions, not necessarily the answers, but being willing to ask the question and being open, not ask a question that we think we already have the answer to, but ask a question or many questions that are expansive and stretch us, stretch us. So I would love to chat about that and giving humanity permission. Julie, Renee, give us permission to be bigger. Give us permission, girl, to be more, because just please do it.
All right, I give you permission. I think it's wonderful. I have a meditation called the Quiet Mind. By the way, it's a giveaway on the website, the Quiet Mind. And I think that part of asking the question, we can ask a lot of questions, but if we don't still ourselves, we can't hear the answer. And you can ask 100 questions, but if you don't have the stillness and the patience, you won't receive it. And one of the things I tested for like 4 or 5 months ago are people receiving the blessing of God? And are they able to? And I got that most people weren't. They just weren't able to. And I think that's maybe one of the things that I would love to see shift, is that we soften, we become patient, and we shift our energy so that we can receive all that is coming to us, that we can receive and hear. And I think about the labyrinth when you ask that talk about asking the question, and the question begins to make the shift. I think about, I also think about what we talked about earlier, where I couldn't make a difference. My prayer didn't make a difference with Jesus. But then I think you and I have talked about the story of me contacting President Clinton during the O.J. Simpson trials. And I gave him a proposal of what we needed to do to stop violence against women and children in the country. It was a 3-page proposal. He put me in contact with a congresswoman who was leading the committee. She asked for every idea, so I gave a 9-page, very detailed proposal. They used every idea. And I had such passion in, I want to make a difference. And I can directly relate that to feeling ineffective here. And so I'm going to contact the person who can make a change here. And, but, I think that we have to there's 2 points. Here's one is soften, be patient with yourself. The answers, once you get in a rhythm of listening, the answers typically will come in 3 days. So you ask a question, and then you allow yourself to be. Maybe you take some walks in nature. It's funny, recently, because I have a special needs, very noisy 3-year-old, I'll get my information standing in front of my teapot upstairs. It's so amazing. It'll be like somebody's whispering in my ear. I always say, I felt like the voice of God talking to me at my teapot again. But you have to have a place where it can come in. You have to quiet the mind enough some of the time. Some of the time you have to just, and give yourself patience. Give yourself, well, I got a partial answer. I got an amazing answer the other day. I wanted to work full-time. My daughter isn't capable of being in school right now. So I have a daycare for her a few hours a day. And I love my work so much. I'm so passionate about it. And up at my teapot, I got, you can work 3.5 hours in the morning when she's napping, you can work, and you can work on Saturdays when you have childcare and she can be around you. And it was just like an answer. It was so simple. It was something that I'd been kind of internally struggling with. How do I make everything work? And I think it's really just opening to receive. We're not just producing, we're also receivers. And that if we could be receivers as well as asking.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much. So I love that idea, because I am constantly, as you know, I was a clothes designer for a really long time, and I really would sometimes get to a place where it was like, oh, I want a really great cuff, but not what I've seen before. And then I would do yoga, and that would quiet me down. And in yoga, I would either be crying by the end of yoga because I would be releasing so many things, or that solution would come to me.
Exactly.
So I think it's so fun to be creative. And I think, guys, that's really the answer. I mean, we think of people like well, there's nobody else like Leonardo da Vinci, but who had so many ideas. He was really more interested in the ideas than the activation of it, actually. But just keeping ourselves open. So, Julie Renee, I want to thank you so much. We have come so quickly to the end of our time together, but we'll definitely have you back. And guys, check out all these books. Go to our website, and each book has a really nice explanation on it. Just press the Learn More thing, and you can learn a lot about each of these many books. And Julie Renee, thank you so much for being with us today.
Oh, it's been completely my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me and for asking such beautiful questions. I think we had amazing things show up in this beautiful conversation. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Well, you have lit up so much. I can't even believe it. You look like you're almost not even here. So, Myrna, I know you want to come on, and I want to just tell you guys, I know you want to know that I'm on Solutionary Sundays on ABC, the regional, and I'm also writing articles, so you can always get them online for Whole Life Times. And of course, we'll be here next week, Thursday, for Pioneers of Possibility, another no doubt amazing guest. And again, I will be so happy to have Julie Renee on again. So look forward to that happening.
Thank you, Sonny. Thank you, ladies, for allowing the Mindalia TV cameras for being a channel to your ideas, for your ideas. And before saying goodbye, we just want to remind you that are seeing us that Mindalia.com is an international nonprofit organization and that you can collaborate with us. Just liking this video, leaving us a positive comment, subscribing to our channel, or sharing this information with someone that you think that may like it. Having said that, we want to thank you again for being with us, and we would love to see you again in the next Mindalia live streaming. Until next time, bye-bye.